Hey, welcome back. It's 3.4 using Kope's comments to revise. The learning objective is students will be able to revise their first draft essay, score higher on criteria A and B. A and B are the toughest ones, folks. And so we're coming back to them again. You spent some time looking at C and D for lessons 3.1 through 3.3, but now we're back to A and B. So let's talk about those. The question I want you to have in your mind is, how do I score higher on criteria A and B? And the main answer, of course, is to revise. I know you don't want to, but it's the process, folks, and the best writers are tireless revisers. All right, so let's talk about this chart or graph, visual, whatever, that's in your packet, and you can add some to it now as I go through it. I made this to help us just understand what the key aspects of literary analysis are, and it's a visual just to help you kind of see how the different pieces work together and how we should start, where we should go next, and how we should end. So we really want to start with the building blocks of literature, the authorial choices. Now, of course, you picked an authorial choice as you wrote your essay that sort of works as a pattern throughout the book. As you look at each instance or example of that authorial choice, you do need to deal with things like the word that was chosen. That's diction. Diction just means word choice. The imagery used. Imagery is the evocation of one or more of the five senses. Tone, the speaker's attitude. Structure, how words are organized into sentences. That's syntax. How sentences are organized into paragraphs, how paragraphs are organized into chapters, chapters into the book, etc. And atmosphere, which is the feeling created usually through description. It's closely connected to mood. So as you are analyzing an example of the larger authorial choice, which a lot of you picked the motif of weight, things carried, you're looking at aspects in that example of these different things. And you don't have to necessarily call them diction, imagery, tone, structure, atmosphere as you are looking at them. You might be even more specific and say, you know, this is a sensory detail, or this is a simile, or this is a, you know, whatever it might be in that particular instance. But you're looking at things this myopically, this focused, this close up. And that's really the first thing you have to do when you're writing a literary analysis for higher level essay in IB literature. The next step is to look at the effect of the example and then also of the pattern itself on the larger work. And you're going to do that by asking these questions. What effects on thought do these choices of words and images and stuff have on the reader? So what ideas are surfacing here? What effects on feeling do these have? What feelings are created? That's evaluation. And only after that, after doing that, can you get to interpretation. And that's when we look at the meaning, and we do that by looking at how it connects to a key theme, a rich idea that we're tracing. So start with the authorial choices, then move to the effects, and then get to meaning. And it's just a quick reminder about DITS and kind of how it fits in with the criteria for the higher level essay. It's specifically with these three verbs. We start with analyzing, and then we move to evaluation, and then we end with interpretation. And those are the three things that IB expects you to do. They list these things over and over in the rubric. So let's take a closer look at it. So interpret, criterion A, and analyze and evaluate, criterion B. Okay, so what can you do specifically to score higher on criterion A? And a reminder that this is really looking at interpretation, but also your knowledge and understanding of the work. The first bullet point IB includes is, how well does the candidate demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the work or text chosen? Well, you can show good knowledge and understanding by having examples from all parts of the book, not just the first chapter, right? But in a good example from the beginning, the middle, and the end of the book. You can also do this by having precise details, using proper nouns. Ted Lavender. Who is, when Ted Lavender dies, who is doing what? Lee Strunk is searching a Viet Cong tunnel for enemy combatants, right? And Lieutenant Jimmy Cross is overseeing that search. Ted Lavender leaves the scene to urinate, and when he comes back, he is shot in the head in a seemingly innocuous, safe kind of situation. This danger had to do with the tunnel complex and searching it, not Ted Lavender going off to urinate, right? So be that specific, be that precise, show your knowledge. And if you don't know those things, you got to go back to the book to figure those things out, okay? Second bullet point, to what extent does the candidate make use of knowledge and understanding of the work or text to draw conclusions in relation to the chosen topic? Well, your line of inquiry really helps you on this, and we worked hard to create a good one and to talk about what makes a good line of inquiry, and then making sure that you have a valid claim, something in your central assertion, your thesis statement, that answers your line of inquiry in a valid way. And if you haven't got it yet, then now is the time to go back and to look, okay, where am I missing the validation? Where am I missing the, the truth from the facts that we have, which are the text, right? So go back and find it, make sure your claims are valid. And are you getting to that rich idea, the theme and meaning? The last bullet point, how well are ideas supported by references to the work or text in relation to the chosen topic? So this is all about the textual evidence, and that you've got it over and over and over and over, supporting every claim you make. And not just the example that we talked the most about in class, but the best examples. You're going to want to find just the best ones for your essay, just like you have to find the right pair of shoes for that outfit, right? You may have a wardrobe full of amazing shoes, but you're just wearing one outfit about this book. You're just writing one essay about this book. And so all those other amazing shoes, you're going to leave them in the closet. Pick just the best one for whatever claim you're making. All right. Moving on to criterion B, this is analysis and evaluation. This is the toughest one. This is where it's at, folks. To what extent does the candidate analyze and evaluate how the choices of language, technique, and style and broader authorial choices shape meaning in relation to the chosen topic? Oh, sounds so simple, right? First thing that I want you to do to improve your criterion B is to make sure you're looking at just one authorial choice. Did you deal with one, and do you really understand what that one is? Go back to the video about the authorial choices. If the comments in your essay say, hey, I'm not sure that you're really talking about the thing that you've labeled, or you're talking about more than one thing here, and make sure you're just focused on one key authorial choice. The authorial choices that you had to choose from are changing and misleading narrators, weight, things carried motif, fragmented and non-chronological structure, irony, tricks to make the reader think the book is nonfiction, ghost motif, motif of story truth versus happening truth, and references to war stories. So you just want to pick one of those and stay focused on it. Also, you're looking at the authorial choice as a pattern. So you're finding examples from the beginning, middle, and end, and you're looking at what is repeated about this particular choice. How does the language and the way the language is used repeat? How is it different? How does it change? And at the very end, what is similar or different? Endings are so important. And some of these patterns, some of these authorial choices really change in the last chapter. And you got to deal with that, okay? Because that's how the author is making meaning. All right, so analyzing and evaluating are really what we're looking at with criterion B. And we're going to talk more about how to improve your analysis and evaluation in this essay. But let's first take a look at the difference between a descriptive essay and a literary analysis in order to do that. So what's the difference? Well, the purpose is different. A descriptive essay is meant to describe. A literary analysis is meant to analyze. A descriptive essay talks about, summarizes, lists, explains characters, events, plot, etc. A literary analysis argues something by breaking down and picking apart examples, proving, supporting, and defending a central assertion throughout. The Collins Dictionary defines analysis as a separating or breaking up of any whole into its parts, especially with an examination of these parts, to find out their nature, proportion, function, interrelationship, etc. That's exactly what we're doing here. Here's how IB defines it: breaking down in order to bring out the essential elements or structure of text. So let's look at an example of this. This has to do with the weight things carried motif. And this student is writing an essay. Their first paragraph is about the listing of the physical items the GIs are carrying in the first chapter. And so look at all of these examples that they include. O'Brien describes the items that soldiers carry in detail in the first chapter of the book, the things they carried, and includes the amount that the items weigh, which add up based on the soldier's specialty. The objects include steel helmets that weighed 5 pounds, a flak jacket at 6.7 pounds, boots at 2.1 pounds, a poncho at almost 2 pounds, rifles weighing up to 14 pounds, ammunition weighing up to 20 pounds, and grenades weighing 14 ounces each. There is a seemingly never-ending list of things to carry, and the soldiers know that these items may very well save their lives, so they carry all they can bear, and then some. So this example does a nice job of breaking down, pulling apart the listing of the items the GIs carry. A lot of you wrote about this in your essay, but you didn't actually mention or quote any of the items that are described. And so that's the analysis part, is just getting it down and saying, okay, here is the list. And this listing feels like it never ends, because we got this, we got that, we got the other thing, we got this. So in this particular case, it's kind of an idea of including a lot of different things, because that's what they're analyzing. They're analyzing the listing of a lot of things that the GIs carry. Okay, so that one works well as an example. Now let's move on to the evaluation, because this isn't evaluating anything yet. It's just analyzing the motif of things carried, as in the chapter being a lot of physical things listed. Okay, so the next part, evaluation, how does IB define it? Well, it's making an appraisal of the effect of the text. What the heck does that mean? Ask yourself this: what is the effect of the listing of all of these GI objects that they're carrying? Or what thought comes to mind? Go beyond it makes it clear to the reader, understandable, it helps us sympathize, it feels authentic, because those are things that all good writers do. You're looking for beyond what makes this writer a good writer. You're looking for meaning. And we get to that by looking for the specific feeling and the specific idea that the pattern creates, or the authorial choice creates. So include what particular feeling you get from reading it. Include what thoughts come to mind through denotations, connotations, all that good stuff. Then look at how the various examples work as a pattern to create a larger feeling. All right, so let's look at some examples. An example of what we just saw, the list of all those different things the soldiers carry. Here's the evaluation. O'Brien's listing of the objects and corresponding weights creates a heaviness in the reader. As one item is listed after the next, page after page, the reader imagines all these heavy items on their own body until it becomes too much to imagine, just as the weight of things carried is too much for the soldiers. So instead of it making us sympathize or feel sorry for the soldiers or understand their plight, we're going to go a step farther and say it makes us understand that it's too much to carry. It's a heaviness that is created. That is the specific feeling we get from the listing. All right, here's another example. This one is again about the motif of weight things carried. Lieutenant Jimmy Cross has to carry the weight and burden of guilt for Ted Lavender's death like a stone in his stomach. The use of figurative imagery to describe carrying such a burden creates the feeling that the guilt is as real as a stone. The idea that a non-physical thing can have weight gives substance to the emotional burden of war as the intangible becomes tangible. So what is the effect of this comparison of guilt to a stone being carried in your stomach? It makes us feel the burden, that guilt is substantial and tangible. All right, so not just that we feel compassion for Ted Lavender, that we understand his plight, that it's clear to the reader, but it's that we also feel the heaviness, the burden of that stone in our stomach and the uncomfortable feeling that creates. All right, so those are good examples of evaluation, guys, and that's what you want to do to score higher for criterion B. Here are some sentence frames that you could use to help you. The use of the motif of weight, things carried, creates the particular thought or feeling that, whatever it is, by however it's done. Here's an example. This is not the motif of weight, things carried. This is fragmented structure. The use of the fragmented structure creates the feeling that the reader is remembering war stories by showing the reader little shards of memories of the same story in multiple chapters. Here's one about the motif of weight, things carried, and this sentence frame is a little bit different. The word, line, image brings to mind the thought created because the listing of the many different items the GIs carry and the corresponding weight brings to mind the burden of war because the reader feels burdened by reading the sheer number of items and accumulated weight they create. All right, so these are good examples. Use them to help you. There's also a sample paper in Schoology to help you as you revise. Feel free to conference with me too because I am here to help. Good luck as you keep working.